Reaction intensifies over the antics of former FBI Director James Comey. He posted that picture that shows seashells in the sand arranged to form the numbers 8647. 86, yes, eliminate someone, knock them off in slang. 47, President Trump is the 47th president. Comey later deleted it, but even grade schoolers know nothing goes away on the internet. Comey led the FBI under ex-President Obama, but insists he was not aware that the number 86 could be associated with violence. Trump's FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said Comey brought shame to the FBI badge yet again. President Trump told Fox News this.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant.
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. I'm not going to get involved.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has not said if there will be consequences for James Comey. Here's a headline: Trump world has tough case with Comey over assassination message. And then it quotes, prosecutors have to balance the content of the alleged threat with other First Amendment protections that could be an uphill battle, given the broader meaning surrounding 86ing someone. The term originated in the hospitality industry, used to indicate a client should not be served or that a restaurant was out of a particular item, end quote. In focus, Charles Marino, now former Secret Service agent and former Homeland Security Department advisor. Thanks for being with me today. All right, let's just start with the former FBI director not knowing a full meaning of 86. Your reaction?
Well, he's a national embarrassment, specifically to the FBI. And what I can tell you is nobody is buying his seashells by the seashore story, that he just stumbled upon this natural formation of seashells that spelled out 8647, and then went on to post that, not knowing what it meant, and then took that post down. And the problem for James Comey is Democrats are nowhere to be found by his side because his political usefulness for the party has expired. This leads to some real credibility questions about James Comey currently. And also, what was his credibility like when he was director of the FBI?
Yeah, you know what? Something that you said, though, I don't think we really focused on, and that is the fact that he honestly thinks that we would believe that the water in the seashells formed 8647.
Right.
I mean, that's a sign of something else going on.
Well, it is, and that's what Secret Service agents get to the bottom of. Look, they opened up a case. He's going it alone now. He's already been interviewed, likely to be interviewed again, and this case will ultimately be presented to the Department of Justice and the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia if it hasn't been already. And all of these facts that you and I just discussed, it means DOJ needs to sit back and say, really, is this a plausible excuse, or is there something more serious going on with James Comey right now?
Look, Charles, I've never done your job for either of those departments, particularly the Secret Service. But when you have someone who clearly, as you just said, looking at the facts, needs to at least have their case looked at, does it matter whether you can win? Because I ask that because you probably heard the headlines, tough case for the Trump administration, meaning it's going to be legally difficult. But it does send a message that if you want to put, you know, whether they're soft pedaling or illicit threats out there, you got to think about that.
Well, this is a unique case, certainly because of the notoriety of James Comey and those that potentially he could incite with this type of post. But when you talk about winning, Harris, I think for the Secret Service, winning is mitigating threats potentially against the President of the United States. The first thing to establish is there an immediate threat against the President of the United States? Or is there something going on here mentally with James Comey, which has caused him to make very poor decisions?
Well, one opinion piece puts it this way. Comey puts fidelity to profits before fidelity to the FBI and country. It makes this interesting argument about why we may have made that incendiary post, or why he may have. Quote, in real life, Comey stokes public fury in order to make money on a book. But in Comey's dream world, far-right speakers must be imprisoned because their political speech targets intellectuals, immigrants, and people of color. Comey might have a fetish for public attention and book sales profits, but he plainly lacks fidelity to the better ethos of the organization he previously led. Comey has a novel coming out soon. Fact.
Yeah.
Charles.
I agree with that statement, but there's got to be a red line established, and we're seeing this red line get crossed more frequently by former and current public officials when it comes to the public discourse over things like policy and elections, and it needs to stop, and people need to be held accountable. And James Comey needs to know that he does have notoriety, and what he does post, if it comes in the form of a threat against the president of the United States, needs to be taken more serious.
Yeah, puts it in a different category. Charles Marino,
Sure
always
does.
great to have you in focus. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Thanks, Harris.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.